Yepa. We've got our main man here joining us today for a good time. It's definitely going to be a good time. Mr. Nzima.
What's up, my bro?
Can you... You're finally here.
Yes. I think today my network is far much better than before.
Yeah. I think
before
there's something about your sound.
Something about the sound. Let me see. You can't hear me?
I'm not so sure what's really happening. I can hear you, but it sounds a bit off. It's gonna... I can no longer hear now. I can no longer hear you now. At this point, I can no longer hear you. Yeah.
Me back.
You are back.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe try to reduce your volume on your other side, and then let's see how it goes.
Okay, let me see that. If it doesn't make into a band. How is it like now?
It's serious. It's serious. It needs adjusting.
Is the voice is the audio too much?
Yeah, it's too much, and it's a bit. There's so much bass. There's so much bass.
I'm trying to get it down. Okay, now.
It's coming together now. It's getting better now.
Okay, so
do what you did, and then I think it's gonna get better.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should be better now.
Can you try operate without the mic, without the headgear?
Okay, let's see that.
I can no longer hear you now. I think I can no longer hear you. I can no longer hear you, so you might need to...
you should hear me now.
Yeah. Now I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah. So let's go. There's a guy cutting grass here. I'm at home. We've closed now. You see, so.
Yeah. I see. It's the festive season.
Yeah, so you shouldn't be surprised if I'm festive.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But you know, I was trying to think to myself, like, was it a good idea to have the football during this time?
Oh, well, I wouldn't have an opinion because I'm not really fascinated by football. So, to me, it's just any other event like any other. So, I mean, I only watched the final, nothing else. Yeah.
I see.
So, like, whether it's a good time or a bad time, to me, it's the same.
Yeah, I suppose. But then the other thing that was interesting for me was how the Middle East people set the standard to say this is what we want and this is how we're going to do it.
Now, of course, you've got to self-determine. You know, it's called self-determination. If I invite you at my house, I mean, of course, you are here to visit me, and
yes,
you don't expect to find yourself here. You must expect to find me. So, I can't then start, bending for you. I mean, the fact that you're here, you must accept me the way I am and follow my rules. So, like they say, when in Rome, do what the Romans
Do what
do.
the Romans do. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So, when in Qatar, do what the Qataris do. So,
yeah, it felt like it. It felt like a situation where these guys just wanted to show that we are here. We are also part of the world. Mhm.
no, it's not really about them showing others that they're here. I
Mm.
mean, them being here is something that everyone knows. I mean, it talks to their existence. We know they exist and all of that. So they really didn't have to, make a mark to say we are here. All that they had to do was to be there as known
Yeah.
that they are there and be themselves. Not that now when the world goes to them, they find themselves. When you go to England, I must find English people doing
Yes.
things the English way. Uh, if I then get to England and it's the same as Gonko Sigazi in Matebelele North, where I come from, then I might as well stay in Gonko Sigazi.
Yeah, but it's. I was thinking about that as well. Like in
Yeah,
connection, having said that, I was thinking that you know how people have dispersed into different places of the world. Of
yeah, of
course,
course.
of course, we're a global community, and we are of the world. But then
Yeah,
ethnicity differs. Therefore,
yeah.
is it wise to also continue to say that, for instance, my background plus where I am
Mm,
sort of identifies with me. Therefore,
mm.
you find that I still have to identify with where I am from originally, but this is where I am. And some of the things that happen from where I'm from are not conducive to happen fully or at all where I'm at now.
So I guess essentially what you are talking about is really finding a balance between who you are originally, where you come from, and your background, and also coming to terms with where you are now. Uh,
Yes.
I mean, where you are now is a creation of your experiences. So now you are where you are. You must accept it because we evolve. All of us evolve. So I cannot expect you to be completely the same as a person who never left your village, because now you have evolved from that person. You've adopted new cultures and all of that, and infused them with your own to create a new culture that identifies with yourself. So really, there's nothing wrong with reminiscing about where you came from and being clear about where you came from so that we can understand where you are. And even there, when I meet you there, I would not absolutely expect you to be British. I'll
Yeah.
expect you to be um, a, a Ndebele man who has evolved in British culture and in British surrounding, but still having traces that can link him to where he belongs or where he started. But the point is, there's a beginning, and you evolve, and as you evolve, you become a different person.
Yeah, because I was just looking. A good example is, for instance, some of the things me and you
Mm,
understand the idea of the umbilical cord being taken to where you come from as a part of a tradition to a newborn.
mm,
Uh, considering that now where I'm from is 10,000 miles away, it's
mm.
not ideal. It can be done, but it's not something that you could actually start collecting the umbilical cord from the nurses and putting it in a plastic bag and put it all the way into the flight, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so Andrew, that is interesting. As we live in this world,
Yeah.
there are many things that happen in this world.
Mm.
Like for instance, as we live, there is things that we call a way of life.
Yeah.
At the time, and that way of life is highly dependent on context.
Yeah.
It's like culture is not fixed; it's dynamic. You see,
Yes.
the fact that you are maybe in Europe now doesn't
Yes.
mean that you cannot practice your culture. It doesn't
Yes.
mean that for discarding the umbilical cord in a cultural way, you have to take a flight. As long as there is soil where you are or there is water, depending on how you do it, you can still do it in Manchester. You can still do it on River Tame. You know what I'm saying? So you don't need to go back home to do it. Much as you do not need to be at a particular locality to speak to your ancestors. You just need what is required in the process of speaking to your ancestors wherever you are. You see, that is why kwakuthiwa ithuna lendoda lisendleleni, like
Yeah.
a man's grave is besides the road, because a man will not stay in one place. He will always be traveling. It doesn't mean that now that he has died on the way, we must carry him back. No, we bury him along the road. We continue.
You
See?
continue.
Yeah. So when you're practicing your cultural culture or your cultural practices, it doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can still lahla inkaba yakho the same way you would have done wherever you would have you came from. You see.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go on a quick break and then we'll be back in a minute.
Number one.
Yep. We are back, and yes, we were still talking about how we're still touching on identity, and we were saying, I can't.
No, I was actually saying practicing your culture. You can practice it in any way. Locality doesn't really matter. So, and also we must understand that our identities evolve, and the fact that you have moved to another place means your culture, your way of doing things, your way of life would be influenced by those around you. In some instances, you may even be 100% assimilated and forget about where you came from. But it is mostly the strong ones who remain connected to their roots and evolve and improve on their roots.
Okay, so does it somehow come across as if someone has to be radical uh, to claim his identity and become who he wants to be, considering how everyone wants to be seen as?
No, no, no. You don't have to be radical. You just have to be yourself. You
Mm,
know, some people choose to be more in touch with, um, who they are, where they came from. Some people choose to be different people every day. Some people choose to be continuously changing their identities. So, with an identity is not a fluid. It's a fluid thing. It's not a fixed thing.
mhm,
So there's identity that links you to where you came from. There's identity that links you with the state of your evolution.
mhm.
But I'm not talking about Darwinism, that kind of evolution. I'm talking about the evolution where you are assimilating other cultures into your and creating something that is truly yourself and you don't share with others. You're infusing where you came from with where you are and where you are going. So identities are not fixed, they are actually very, very fluid. So you cannot fault a person who has decided to completely um, denounce or assimilate to another culture. Uh, if that was their choice. But then there's that which happens through colonization of the mind, you know, and then people are swayed away from who they are without their consent. That is violent. That is the violent kind of evolution or revolution, if we may put it.
Okay. Having said that, what is your opinion on the idea that if when it came to I would rather say, um, what do you think would have been if the colonizers, the imperialists,
Mm.
did not do things forcefully, did not bully people into believing that they are and you are not, and
If they had negotiated and convinced,
yes.
which is what they didn't do, they did not negotiate, they did not convince, they did not tolerate. But had they been tolerant,
Mm,
convincing, and negotiative,
mm,
we would not have been in a situation of mass scale violence, global violence, like we've seen in colonialism, where people are subjected to the most inhumane lives just because uh, someone has to, forcefully, um, apply their will upon them. So had that been done, negotiated, had it there been tolerance, had there been acceptance, had there been efforts to convince people that this is a better way of doing things, I believe the world would be a better place today. Perhaps it would have been what certain people term as paradise, because we would be living in a harmonious world where they've all agreed on the way of life without others being forcefully, you know, included in a certain way.
in a certain way. So
Yeah.
would you sort of come to think of it like, I think Zimbabwe is not in the Commonwealth, and word on the street is they're trying to find their way back into the Commonwealth. So
Yeah.
you being you and identifying as a Zimbabwean, would you think that that is something that is needed, or it's something that they can do without?
Well, it depends from which vantage point you're looking at it. There are some benefits of being part of the Commonwealth, particularly to ordinary people who are trying to improve themselves in their own diverse paths, life paths. You see, people can actually get Commonwealth scholarships that could change their lives forever and that of their families and communities. Some of the most prominent people we know have benefited from one scholarship or other. So if you look at the Commonwealth, you have to look at it in such a way that what is it that ordinary people can benefit from being part of the Commonwealth, and what is it that ordinary people are missing out on? Uh, Many people could have had good grades, could have benefited from Commonwealth scholarships since Zimbabwe left that collective, and such people did not benefit. And once a person benefits, they do not just bring themselves up in terms of development and sustenance. They also take care of their families, they take care of their communities. So there are areas where it is good, but there are also areas where you really do not need it, in the sense that you do not need, you need self-determination. Like when we started, we were speaking about self-determination. You do not need to be told how to run your affairs, you see. But then now, if it comes as a collective of bullies that sort of like subdue you to take certain decisions that favor a certain narrative, even if it is against everything that you believe in, then no, we do not need it. You see, if it is going to interfere in our sovereignty, we do not need it. But if it is going to be a partner who assists when help has been sought, you know, you don't just go and help someone who has not asked for the help. Even if you see a problem, that is called interfering, you see.
Mm.
But when I'm struggling and I say, oh, my brother, come and assist me here with ideas, with resources, with whatever means of assistance, I've asked for that help. I cannot just ambush you and say, I'm here to help you. And then I say, no, I do not need the help. And then you tell me, no, you need my help. It does not work. So with everything that is grand, everything that is big, or what we sometimes term grand narratives, you must always reduce it to the particular. To say, if this was happening in a family setup, if this was happening in an individual setup, will it really make sense? You know,
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I've read a book about state personhood by one of colleagues from my university. State personhood, to say a state can actually take the form of a person, in the sense that it's a living organism that makes decisions, that behaves, that can also have traumas. You know, so
Yeah.
now you have a state like Zimbabwe that has suffered for a very long time under colonial oppression, and
Mm-hmm.
then you, after colonial oppression, you get your independence, and then you are part of this collective body of former victims, where the former colonizer still reigns supreme and can decide your fate. You know, it's a very traumatic experience. Now you're dealing with post-trauma of colonialism, and then now you are being bullied on how to make decisions. If I'm wrong, allow me to be wrong and discover my own mistakes. Don't tell me that I can't do it. If I, you know, you force the advice on me. If I'm wrong, I'll find out, and then I'll come back and fix it. And if you're a true friend, you'll still be there to help me out, you see.
Yeah, but with all these friendship, there's always an agenda, isn't it? It's like,
Of
in
course.
real terms, as boys, sometimes there's five of you, but when it comes to maybe say buying alcohol, maybe one doesn't have, but he plays his part, maybe being the driver, or that sort of thing.
Of
So
course, you have to contribute
yeah,
something.
in a way. But you
And
touched
then
on something.
sometimes a person who doesn't know you as a collective would
Mm.
actually think that this guy is not carrying his weight. But the day that guy is not there, that's when you realize that
That,
there's certain things you'll not have because this guy is not there.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
You touched on something which triggered a thought
yeah,
to me, which I sort of have always tried to want to understand, and I'm open
yeah.
to whatever perspective. The idea that the law of the land is the Roman, but the land is of African.
Yeah, that is a serious disconnect, because a lot of our culture and the way we do things, a lot of our norms and customs um, are stupidified, if I may put it that way. We actively stupidify our norms. We actively stupidify our cultures and customs because they do not fit into the mold of the Romans and the Dutch. There's things that are normal to us, but when the Dutch and the Romans see them, they exclaim and say, why would anyone do such a thing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
and then we then take the basis of a culture which does not identify at all with us, and we say it is going to be our law and run our affairs. It is impossible. You know,
Yes.
we ought to have had our laws that are grounded on African traditional practice, you see, and then we improve with time. So like I said before, sometimes we have got these revolutions that are forced upon us, but also we must understand how we got that law.
Yes, that's the point.
Yeah.
Because
So,
ultimately, that law was imposed on us, maybe on the basis of the person putting that law was putting it so that he benefits.
those
So,
laws were put by colonial administrations. Colonial administrations put those laws to protect their access to resources. They did not want, they wanted to eliminate competition. They also wanted harmony in their plunder. As they are plundering the resources, they wanted there to be harmony amongst themselves as the plunderers. They did not want to be plundering and then getting into conflict among themselves. So they had to be certain base of laws that manage how they engage in their plunder, how they engage in their systematic raping of the of the colonial countries that they had colonized. You know, so Africans were systematically raped using those laws as an aid to actually make it a systematic and less chaotic thing for themselves as the imperialists or colonizers. So those laws were never really meant to save us. If anything, they were meant to, limit us and limit our capabilities, in the sense that you'd see we even had things like your heart attacks, your heart attacks, dog attacks. You couldn't even have a dog. It was illegal for you to work for anyone else who is not a white person and all of that, and you couldn't be employed in certain areas. You couldn't earn certain salaries like the others. You couldn't even be in the city after curfews that were placed. So there was a time so all the laws were just against us. So as we got back our power, what we got was political power, wherein we couldn't then now say, let's create laws that favor our way of life and our way of being. But you see, the issue of laws is a very controversial one, because today, myself and you, we are not in power, we are not politicians. We see that these laws are a problem because we do not benefit. They do
yeah.
not favor us. But tomorrow, if they put us in power, those laws are now favoring us because we are now the custodians. So we will not change them. So you don't expect politicians to change laws without any pressure. So unless the African people start putting pressure to say we want laws that are based on African traditional authority or African traditional culture, then we are doomed.
Yeah, saying that, some of the laws that come into mind are those that the idea of marriage, which is
Yeah,
it's one man, one man, one wife. So,
yeah.
to you, from me to you, would you prefer there be polygamy based on that this was
It's the
our way
natural
of
way.
life? Because if you look at it really closely, we were peasant people who you had say 5 wives, and those 5 wives would look after everyone, and your piece of land
Yeah,
fed the whole family. So, in coming to modern times, would you go with polygamy, or would you like to cheat and not get caught?
Well, if it were according to me,
Mm,
I would prefer that everyone embraces polygamy,
mhm,
such that things become even cheaper for people. You know,
mm,
uh, when you know where you're going, your wife knows where you are.
eh,
Because you're with another wife. So every time your wife must know who you are. So and the thing is with cheating and not getting caught is that you are always in a space that is dangerous, unknown, uncharted. It's unpredictable, you
mm,
know, because you may lose a lot of things. You may be found out. What if you're caught? You may lose your career. You may lose your business. You know, just because you wanted to be with a different person. But if you actually are able to take care of more than one wife, why not? And
mm.
you must do it the right way. You don't come with a pregnant woman and say now because she's pregnant. No, if you see that it is time now
Yeah.
to have a second wife for whatever reason,
Mm,
you must do it the cultural way. You discuss with your wife. You make sure that your wife is on board.
mm.
You don't just force it upon her because she also has a choice in the matter. So whenever you are making these decisions, you must remember that the decisions don't just affect yourself. So everyone who is involved must be consulted satisfactorily so that the decision in the end does not destroy but it builds, because the whole idea of STEM is to build, not to destroy.
Okay, so in having said that, so
Mm.
do you think a person can love more than one person?
I think a person is capable to love everyone who is on earth. Yes. You can't tell me that we are beings that are so incapable of love and filled with hatred, just that you can only love one person. Surely we can love more than we can hate.
All right. So, on the basis of men and women, can you be
Mm.
in a position to say, I love that woman, and I also love that woman too?
Of course,
Of course,
yes, without a doubt,
without a doubt.
yes. But as long as those women are also understanding and in agreement. So now you can be in a position where you love this woman and you also love that one. But then these women are not in agreement with you loving them both. You see. So in the
So that's
end,
not ultimately that's not the important. The importance is that you, as the man, love
mm,
both of them. That they love, they don't love that they don't agree to that. It's not your fault.
no. It must be a matter of consent to you. That when you are doing it, you must get to a point where they both accept that you love them both. You must not impose it on them.
Okay, but
So
then
you must have good verbal skills to make sure that you convince them. Because if they don't love, if they do not agree with your decision,
mm,
you will not build. You will destroy.
mm,
You will breed hatred. You will breed a lot of. So even if it takes long, you must
mm,
make sure that you work on them understanding each other and understanding your overall objective about building your family, because they must understand why you are doing it. You
mm-hmm.
know, they must see the vision. Once this is done, where is it taking the family? You see, and convince them. Remember, when we began, we are talking about convincing, negotiating,
Yeah,
being tolerant. Yeah.
mm.
So if you impose your will on others, it will become toxic,
It will
and
become toxic.
others may find the need to resist it and protest it through hashtags or even in other ways that are actually physical. So for it to work for you, everyone involved must actually be on board.
Everyone needs to be on board.
Yes. And then if you see that it is something that you really can't live without, and they also can't live without, then it means you all have no business being with each other. So you must find like-minded people.
I suppose, yeah. And having said that, it's been said by numerous people that it's ideal that in the case that you have polygamy, you don't have just two wives, but you have a third to eliminate the idea of conflict, because then when there's
Yeah.
three, then there's less competition, and the idea of building is is understood. Plus,
Mm.
according to what I know, it's the women who the second wife is actually approached by the first wife to say, listen, we understand that the man of the house is interested in you, and we are,
Mm.
I would like to get to know you so that we know how to handle affairs.
Mm.
Mm.
That is if it is done right. So if
Yes.
it is done right, before you even identify the person,
Mm.
you tell your wife that um, I would like to expand this household, and um, you discuss based on the needs of the household. What do we need? Because you remember here you have shared the vision. What is the vision for the family? Where do I want this family to go? What is the legacy that I'm trying to build? So the first thing you do is to share the vision, so that even your wife sees that in this vision there is a need for another wife for this vision to come to pass. And then now you together with your wife, you discuss what are the qualities of a person who can come to help us achieve this vision. You see? So now you are looking together, as opposed to you going out and jollying and then you get caught and then you say, I want two of you because you are just wanting to satisfy your last. It's never about last.
Yeah, do you know what? Yeah, because it's many times I've heard people who are on the subject wanting to say they want to expand. Their concern is the surname growth, and they want, in the case that maybe the first wife has got three girls and no boys,
Mm,
so it's like, can I have a second wife, so as to have try and see if I can get boys, and so that the surname continues, because the girls get married and the surname dies, and that so on and so on, and
mm,
it brings about the idea that you are of the father. It's
mm,
as a child, uh, you are of the father, and it also brings about the idea
mm,
that the idea of God, in line of God, that
mm,
when it comes to religion, that he made you in his image, and that way it's in line, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's patriarchy. It's a long debate. I mean, to start debating why is God male? God is male because it's a male who wrote the Bible. You know, God is male because it's males that have been in charge of societies. I mean, God is associated with kings. King, sometimes they say he's a king. He's a king of kings, because it's males who've been writing this history. But the point is, we are in a situation we are in. There are some societies that are matriarchal. There are some people that embrace matriarchy, but the dominant form of social organization is patriarchy, and we can't run away from it. We just have to accept it if we can't change it. So that's the way it is.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
Yeah, and we as men, we must acknowledge the privileges that come with it. And I always say, as much as there are privileges that may be, unpalatable to some people. As long as I'm acknowledging that I've got privileges in patriarchy, and some of them I do not want to forgo. You see? So,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
a yeah. It's having touched on you touched on the idea of God being not known, and it being the scriptures being written by man. I want us to
Mm,
touch on the idea of there's some 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 discussions that have highlighted that it's not quite clear if Adam
mm,
and Eve were actually the first people on earth. They may have been other people surrounding or somewhere in the world. However,
mm,
that was the best narrative to
mm,
put into a book.
mm. So I have to be a staunch Christian for me to say Adam and Eve were the first people.
Mm,
And perhaps I'd have to be a descendant of Israel
mm,
for me to say uh, Adam and Eve were the first people. Of course, that is what that religion preaches, and that is the cultural tales that they have been told to say this is where we began. It's
mm,
okay. People have got right for religious self-determination as well. Uh,
mm,
it's fine. But as who I am, I would not believe that they were the first people or the only people.
mm.
Yes.
What is a theory that you can formulate?
A theory that I can formulate is that we all do not know.
Hmm.
We all woke up and found ourselves in different parts of the world with different languages and cultures. You know,
Hmm.
we truly must admit and acknowledge that we know nothing.
So ultimately, all is vanity.
Yes, we know nothing. We must accept it because
Yeah.
we can. It's a debate that is unending and is tired.
Mm,
Because everyone has their own theory, but the ultimate reality is that no one knows.
mm.
Those who know are not here. I guess that is why whoever created the world and people invented death, because there are certain things that must never be known.
There's certain things that should never be known.
Must
Hmm.
never be known. Yes.
So it's ideal that we continue to live in uh, something which could be the truth or could be lies, but still trying to figure out what's next for ourselves as an individual, rather.
Mm.
Mm,
Everyone has their way of life. Wherever you were born, there is a way of life. If
mm,
today you were born in India, you'll be a Hindu or something.
mm, mm,
If today you were born in China, you'll be having your little corner with Buddhas there
mm,
to say your prayers.
mm,
You see? So, I mean, we must embrace who we are. Uh, our ancestors used to go and pray in sacred mountains like Njelele.
mm,
We still continue to pray in those sacred mountains. Uh, we believe that our ancestors know better. We believe that there is God. But our ancestors, we do not know whom we can pinpoint and say this one is the first one. There's no record of that. But
mm,
everyone must, at some point, speak to their ancestors and worship in the way that was given to your people. But then you also have your own agents as an individual to decide to say, if you think the God of the Jews is stronger than your God, perhaps it's the God that you must worship. Because you surely can't worship a God you are not confident about. So you need confidence to worship a certain God.
that's that's true. That's true. You need confidence
Yeah.
to actually because it's what I have realized is that a lot of times as
Mm,
men, be it man or woman or whatsoever, it's
mm.
with confidence you can tell a lie and get away with it.
Of
But
course, you just need to be confident.
yeah, you just need to be confident. But then
Yeah.
confidence comes with the backing, because you cannot just stand out there and just be tell a lie with no backing.
Yeah.
So it's ideal that you have a backing so as to move mountains.
You need
You know,
a believable background story,
yes, yes, yes.
something tangible. You see?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
which
so so in religion, objects serve that purpose of tangibility because people believe that power must be associated with an object. Even the people who pray in Christian churches,
mm,
they believe that if a word is said to water, that water becomes strong and it's a source of support and it can help them to achieve certain things. So,
yeah, yeah. It's very interesting with all a lot of these churches that are coming up now in the last 20 years or so.
mm,
How like for instance, water that is being prayed for and being sold, and there
yeah,
was a time when there was someone who was the cucumbers, and there was a time when all sorts was happening, and people
yeah,
were,
people eating grass and people being sprayed with doom
yeah,
insecticide on the
mm,
faces so that they can go to heaven and all sorts of things. Yeah,
mm,
and they can get prosperity and yeah. I mean, it's their beliefs. People need something tangible to hold on to say, I mean, this works. I mean, he prayed for me and did that, and there should be a miracle and all of that. Um,
mm.
if you go to a sangoma, you want them to give you something to say, go fika uchele lapha endlini uhlafuna ufake ngaphansi olimi and all, you know. I mean, that's how it's going to work. But the most important thing is to believe in you
Mm,
because you are the only proof of the greater miracle of a greater power, which people call different things. Others call uNkulunkulu, uMvelinqangi, others call it God, Jehovah, whatever they call it. But there is a greater power which you can witness, as there is a lot of evidence in what is living on this particular earth. I mean, the grass grows every day, the trees grow every day, the ants survive, the birds, and all of that. And you yourself are an evidence that there's a beginning because whoever was the beginning in your line is still living in you, in your genes, up to
mm.
today. So you are evidence of people who have struggled and survived a lot of eliminations. You are evidence of survival because had they been eliminated, you wouldn't be here today. So you are a continuation of the beginning.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the continuation of a beginning of mm, yeah. It makes so much sense,
Yeah.
and
So the most important thing is continuity. How do you then, from
mm,
henceforth, make sure it does not end here? You
yes.
must
So
continue. Every
yes.
species that lives,
Mm,
a tree bears a fruit with a seed so that it will continue. You
mhm,
also, your main purpose is to make sure that there is continuity. It does not end with you. When you leave, you still survive and live within the genes of your children. So, as a man or as an animal or as a what, you must have an offspring, and so that it continues. Because you really do not know the beginning, but you can see the beginning through you, and you must not be the end. You must
yes.
continue through your sibling, through your offspring.
Mm. So would you agree with me on the idea that because I uh, thought to myself and came up with the conclusion that the purpose
Mm,
of life is procreation, and with that, it's the whole idea of getting married and all sorts comes with the idea that you need someone to insert the seed, who will then bear you a kid, who will continue as offsprings. And then what then marriage is getting someone who you think can carry the genes on for your us, of you onto onto them and continue the cycle of life. And well, it then led me to think that the female species also understands that. However, what then happens is that they are in search of security. That is, they need someone who will be there, someone who will be. They're saying, yes, we understand the idea of the cycle of life, and it takes two people, me and you, but I need to know that you will be there. I need to know that you can provide. I need to know that you can protect me while I do these things for you and for your ancestors.
If I may ask you a question in response to your question, would procreation not happen outside marriage?
It would.
So then the purpose of marriage is not procreation.
No. Yes, I get it's
marriage has got nothing to do. Marriage has got nothing to do with procreation. Well, if I may give you perhaps my own opinion about what the purpose of life is according to my limited understanding and that of the entire human race. I think the purpose of life is continuity.
But then what enhances continuity?
Yes, then how do you arrive at continuity? Through procreation. But now, because while you are waiting for your turn to procreate, you need to do some things.
Yes.
You know, you need to eat, so there's a whole political economy, there's an economy that happens around the fact that there has to be continuity, and continuity comes through procreation. So now we have a situation where people think marriage is part and parcel of that process, but marriage is strictly for economic reasons.
Okay, I'm following.
Yes, that is why there's no animals that get married, but they continue. See?
Okay.
So you can actually have procreation and continuity without marriage. Marriage is an absolutely different thing, economic thing, political thing. It's got nothing to do with continuity. It's just we decided let's have an arrangement where we do this, but actually we can do it. You see, even now we are in an era where I call this era post-rationalization era. It's a postmodernist era, post everything. You see, we are seeing now more and more families that do not have fathers, more and more families that have never really been families. You see, we are seeing more and more people preferring to have kids and not homes, and not marriages. A lot of people would actually tell you, I want a child and I'm going to do an in vitro fertilization. I do not even want to know who the father is.
Yeah.
Procreating. So we have passed an era where there is one single worldview on how to do things, and institutions like marriage, which are economic institutions, are collapsing. But this comes with a lot of problems because there is chaos in this need for continuity. We still need to maintain order. That is why I said when the colonialists came, he realized that in this agenda of plundering this continent, we need order, because if it's chaotic, we'll end up fighting amongst ourselves. So things like marriage help human beings to create a certain social order that will assist them to procreate in peace. You see?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why it's the idea where I highlighted that women sort of have seen this And then the idea now that they want is security. So with security, they understand procreation because ultimately they can bear kids for anyone to anyone. But then, like animals do. But then now comes the idea that because there are economic situations now, and sustainability needs someone who can assist. And now it takes two to tango. So who are you to be part of this whole bringing up? You know what I mean?
That is why I said marriage is an economic arrangement. There are stakeholders and investors. So everyone wants to attract the best investor and stakeholder. So that is why you can even have a marriage where people say we do not want kids, but we want to be married. Yeah, they sign the contract, but they do not want kids. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the new era of life now, and it's it's interesting. It comes with a lot, and we are we are seeing things happen around us, and
Of course.
it's a lot to take.
Of course.
But yeah, it's gone to one now. It's been a lovely conversation, and I'm sure people will be able to watch this, will watch it all over and over again. Thank you for coming through. I would definitely need you to come because I'm sure there's a lot we could still touch on. And
Yeah, I mean, today we just scratched the surface.
you
We hadn't started talking. No, we had not started talking.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming out, man. It's
No, I
been a
appreciate
pleasure
it,
to
man. I
have this
appreciate it.
conversation.
And thank you for this. I mean, you're doing a really wonderful thing. I mean, it's great work. We are noticing it, and I mean, we encourage you to continue and grow. Well done, man. This is great. I mean, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. All right then, man. Take care. Yeah. Yeah.